All right, there you go. Good morning. Thank you for joining in today's webinar. This webinar is brought to you by the People Management Association of the Philippines. I would like to thank the officers and board of trustees headed by President Loy and the chairman of the committee who is putting together the webinars for you. Um, Miss Lucy. Thank you so much for having me today. To all of you who joined us here at the webinar. I heard that we had an overflow of 500 people. Thank you so much for joining. And what's going to happen is, for those of you who cannot register anymore, we would like you to actually join us in the People Management Association of the Philippines Facebook page. That's where you could also have access of the live streaming of today's webinar. I just want to make sure that we're all everything is okay. So please tell me if the audio is clear or unclear, so we could make adjustments. Right now, we're just parang roll call. We're just trying to get to see if everybody's on board. What you're seeing on the screen right now are my information details. A while ago, you saw a video, a screen that actually gave an idea on my background. My name is Boris Joaquin, by the way. You can get in touch with me according to the screen on the following platforms. On Facebook, I have a page on Boris Joaquin 1, so you can follow that and have access to that. In LinkedIn, a lot of you are my friends in LinkedIn, but you can also connect to me at LinkedIn, and that's Boris Joaquin as well. Interestingly, my team started this Instagram account, and it's a good community. But most of the people in that community are young people. They're my kids. So I want to have makaedad ko naman to actually add me sa Instagram. So para ka-generation ko yung mga pinapollow ko dyan. Okay? And I also posted the cell phone number of my assistant. Her name is Juliet. If you want a copy of this PowerPoint presentation and also some documents about the topic, we are willing to share that. We did that in our previous Facebook Live. We're also doing that. All you need to do is to text this number, or if you want a copy, to all the people who are watching dun sa ano, if you're watching on the Facebook page of PMAP, all you need to do is make a comment. I need you to make a comment. So there are two people who's probably going to interact with you as we go on. All right. That's going to be Richard from PMAP, and my assistant. Her name is Juliet Trapella. Richard Mamuyak is from PMAP, and Juliet Trapella is from my organization. So if you make a comment and say, I want a copy of Boris's presentation, I want to get a copy of the documents that he's talking about, then just make a comment there, and then they will respond to you. So meron tayong interaction on Facebook as well. So can we do that? But otherwise, you can connect with me from any of these platforms that I'm showing in the screen right now, because I really would like to engage you, connect with you, and probably collaborate with you, and it be in partnership with you in whatever possible way. Okay, so I hope that's clear, and let me just proceed. Okay, so the topic that we have today is integrating work, home, and personal life. I have been an executive coach, business consultant, and corporate educator for the last 2 decades, I suppose. If I plus minus the years. And when I started the business full time, when I resigned from a full time job around 7 years ago, I've been working from home. So one of the hot topics that has been discussed, that people have been discussing for the past few days, and that I have been invited to talk in is working from home. And I think part of the experience na nakapag-work at home na ako, even before the crisis, is probably where I will glean more on, right? And then it's probably a situation that most of you are in, and I know it's a situation that we didn't all wanted to have. But it's a situation that we kind of that was imposed, and we eventually embraced all of that ultimately. And telecommuting and mobility is probably going to be one of the new norms that's going to happen post-pandemic era. So I don't want to talk more about the work from home policies and practical tips on that, although I'll be touching more on that. I want to leverage on that, use it as a springboard, and then progress on to other, hopefully useful topics for you guys. And hence the title. When Richard and I was talking about what kind of topic I will do for the webinar, we chose this topic: integrating work, home, and your personal life. How do you maximize this opportunity? How do you become intentional? How do you become purposeful? How do you integrate? Actually, I think that's the key word in the whole hour that we have together as a session, is how do we integrate, right? So there are three parts to this workshop. We're going to talk about work, home, and then personal life, just to guide you, just to give you an idea. So if you have a question, okay, if you have a question, just post it on the chat box, and I'm actually seeing that, right? uh, or you could post it on the comments on the Facebook page, as we are also trying to we also want to see how we can communicate with you through Facebook. Okay, so make sure that you interact with us, you communicate with us, and you ask questions, because at the end of the session, I'll make sure that I get to talk to you and get to answer your questions. So are we good? Everybody okay? Okay, great. Let's continue. So the first part of today's presentation is about improving work. Like what I said a while ago, it's interesting where we found ourselves in this particular situation. I am not about to diminish the context of the outbreak and the pandemic crisis that we're in right now. But most businesses, all businesses actually, had a difficult time to actually making adjustments. I remember from the time that, because I have a lot of BPO clients, and when the first time that the community quarantine was announced, they made adjustments. They billeted their people in a nearby hotel, and because they wanted to still continue with their offshore operations, right? And they still want to keep the ball running in terms of yung ginagawa nila at yung trabaho nila. So they billeted their people in the in the nearby hotel, and then just a few days after, the enhanced community quarantine was announced, and that was difficult for them, because all of a sudden they found themselves trying to make adjustments, like they have to improve the internet connection, and then they have to put desktop computers in the homes of their employees, and that was a tough adjustment. But nonetheless, I think the point of this particular category is that regardless of what crisis we are in right now, we need to be agile, and we need to adapt, and we need to somehow manage to continue with our operations. And I remember in a lot of the learning events, conferences, and even workshops that I have attended or I have conducted, topics like the VUCA, or the agility, agile leadership, adaptive leadership, all of those topics and all of those themes were actually preparing us for something like this. Wouldn't you agree? So now that we're caught in this situation, I think what I want to discuss is really more on the idea of constantly improving with the work that we're doing, regardless of the situation and the crisis that we're in. And in a previous webinar that I did share some remote tools. I think the point that I would like to make in this particular slide is what we call improving productivity and performance. Productivity, at the end of the day, that's what we want to happen, right? Yung hindi matigil yung performance and the ability of other people to produce the desired outcome the company or the organization wants them to have. And I own a small business, and one of the things that was very useful for us is the use of time management softwares, just to be able to monitor what's happening and what people are doing, right? So it's that So for example, we were using Trello, and I know for different companies, iba-iba yung different folks, different strokes, and we do have our BPN. This is the yung visual private network, and I guess that's the one that allows us to use other probable softwares. Like I know some of my clients are using Basecamp, and they're using and it's basically a way to share your things or to monitor the work that you guys are doing. And then there's also Team Viewer. I'm not going to dwell much on this, but I think the main point is if you want to continually improve your productivity and performance, we need to be aware about this, whether we are leading a big organization or an SME or a startup. Now, what I would like to point out at this point when we talk about improving one's productivity or commitment is the way we measure visibility versus impact. Now you're seeing right now in the screen is actually a chart. I'm sorry, excuse me. What you're seeing right now is a chart. It's actually a grid. Okay, it's a grid that compares high impact with high visibility. Now, this is a helpful tool for you to actually measure or evaluate your tasks. Okay, now when you evaluate your task, you need to see whether this particular task would contribute to your overall purpose and productivity performance objectives. So whether if it's high impact, mid impact, or low impact. And the other category that you might want to consider is the feasibility. Now, you want to know whether this is something that's doable or not doable, right? So when you categorize your tasks based on using this grid, you're using this tool, it would allow you to manage your time properly. Like, for example, definitely what needs to be done with so much urgency are the ones that belongs to this category, high impact and high feasibility, right? And for those that have high visibility and low impact, meaning it's something that you've been doing for a while, so you probably wouldn't want to, but it doesn't really contribute that much to the bottom line or the overall contribution that you want to give to your organization. So you may want to shelve that. I think one of the things that working from home has afforded us to do is that most leaders, most team leaders, supervisors, business leaders, they began to look at what's really important and prioritize based on visibility and contribution to the organization. So even if it's something that you've been doing for quite some time and you think that, hey, we're good at this and it's something that you've been doing as part of your routine, you may want to shelve it because it belongs to this category over here. Now, we also have what we call high impact but low visibility. Now, what do you do with that? Those are the things that probably would require further discussion or further research and then further analysis before you decide on what to do with it. And then, of course, you have the low visibility and low impact. And now, when it comes to this part, you probably need to ignore that and remove that from your to-do list. Being able to segment the tasks that you do, the work that you do, will prove to be an efficient way in improving your work and the role that you're doing in your company. For most organizations, and I heard this from most of my clients, streamlining the work that needs to be done right now or being able to choose and prioritize is probably one of the best strategic decision that people are doing right now. Not because it's something that they intentionally want to do, but simply because they were forced to do it. And it's probably high time that we actually do something to that effect. Now, we are in a crisis situation. So the next slide I'm going to show you is what I heard from my friend Daily say. It's the crisis cone. Okay, it's the crisis cone. Now, what we measure here is basically certainty and information. Now, information is the knowledge that you have and the things that you need, the facts that you need in order to get your your work uh, efficient and working, and for you to basically progress. Now, certainty is similar to the feasibility. It's something that you know that it's possible, it can work, it can happen. Now, if you can see the cone, it's progressive, right? Now, on this side is high certainty and high information, and on this side where the cone becomes thinner, it's the low certainty and information. Okay. Now, by doing that approach, you actually get to categorize the tasks that you're doing. The flow is the sense of urgency. So for example, if there are tasks that you have that are high information, you already have them, it's present to you. Okay, and then it's definitely feasible. Then maybe those are the things that can be done in a couple of days and in a couple of weeks, while those that mid certainty or a little bit of information, you can probably do them in the couple of months. And the one that requires more research, more feasibility studies, then maybe those are the ones that can be categorized quarterly. Now, I hope these two tools that I just shared with you will help you in classifying or segmenting the tasks that you're doing. These tools, I find it very helpful for me as an individual as I try to prioritize. I think the key word here is prioritizing. Now, when it comes to improving work, there's two key points that I need you to remember. One is clarify, and the other one is communication. When it comes to improving work, we really need to clarify what's our purposes, what's the goals, what's the objectives. If I'm going to work from home and I'm going to be limited the things that I'm doing right now, and I can only do so much, what are the things that I need to prioritize, right? So, and then the second one is communication. And I said that because you need to clarify and communicate with your bosses, supervisors, business owners, what needs to be done, right? So you need to clarify how they define what's feasible, what's certain, what's doable, and what do they define to be available in terms of information and the things that you have. Okay, so you need to be able to communicate that not just to the people on top of you or your supervisors. You also need to communicate that to the people below you. I mean, those who are reporting to you. You need to communicate to them and make sure that there's clarity. They know what's expected from them. They know their goals. They know their what needs to be done. Okay. So it's very important. Self-discipline, it's an important attribute that we need to remember when it comes to improving our work. Okay. Self-discipline, as described in the slide, is being able to regulate conduct by principle and judgment rather than by impulse, desire, pressure, or custom. So I learned this from materials. You don't react, you respond. So you become more proactive. I think especially at this particular in this particular moment, we need to be able to be conscious on how we become proactive in the things that we're doing. So it's managing your tasks. It's being disciplined on what is high impact and high feasible. It's being disciplined on working on what's really urgent, on the things that you're certain and you have enough information on. And it follows that when that happens, you need to be able to communicate well with your people. And when you communicate with your people, I always say this to a lot of whenever I've been doing this webinar for the last few days. I tell them that when it comes to communicating with your people, there's really two aspects to that. You actually communicate in a formal way, and that's where you give your directions, instructions. And then the second one is the informal way, because what's missing when it comes to working from home, what we lost in the process, the social dynamics. So imagine, kasi when you're working, diba, in between works, you have coffee breaks or you go to the water dispenser, and then you walk to the hallways, you talk to people, you lose the body language, you lose the interaction. And what I normally give as an advice to my client is Don't just use the communication platforms like Zoom or the chat groups that you do just to give instructions. Use it as a way to really personalize the way you do things, right? Personalize your relationship between goals and relationship, between results and relationships. Rather, you put more weight on relationships because that's probably more important than anything. Now, let me move on to the next segment. And we talked about improving the work, but let's also talk about involving home, right? Now, working from home means you have to set up, right? You need to really set up your home. And I'm trying to see what's my viewing option here. I'm gonna transfer to me and not just the slide. Okay, I can't do that right now. When we were practicing, we could do that, but not so much right now. Jay, can you go back to the previous slide? Sorry, can you just help me there? And go back to the slide where you just stay there for a while. I'm trying to. Anyway, I can't do it, but you can see it on the small screen. Basically, I just want to show you what my situation is right now since I'm working from home. Um, Once you set up your own space, I want to talk about boundaries, because if there's two keywords that you need to remember about working from home, is that you still want to continue maintaining your community, right? Okay, you need to build a community nonetheless, even if it's a virtual one. Okay, Katrina is asking if I could repeat what I said about communication. Well, the first part when we said about improving work, right? I said what's critical there is to clarify. We need to clarify our objectives, our expectations. And then the second word that I need you to remember is the word communicate. We need to be able to communicate well. And of course, nauso na yung mga different platforms like Zoom, Skype for Business, and even Messenger and Vibers being utilized. It's very important for us to communicate, not just in giving instructions or directions. So I said there's two ways to communicate. One is you communicate formally, that's formal communication where you give directions. The second one is that you communicate informally. You need to allow that to happen in order to build the community. And that's what we're saying here about involving home. We need to foster community camaraderie because we lose that when we start remote working or virtual or working virtually. Nawawala yun, di ba? Nawawala yung social dynamics. So I normally advise my clients, we need to bring that back. So kunwari, once a week you get to talk to them, your team, and then you have this conference call and you give them instructions on what needs to be done, parang project list meetings. Pero designate another time, set up another time where you get to call them for personal purposes lang. Kamustahan ba? Or sometimes it's a group conference call, but you just have fun together because we lose that in the process. One time I was doing this with my team and they were changing their backgrounds on the Zoom app that we were using. And that was fun. Somebody was in Paris, somebody was in the beach, or sometimes they were sharing pictures of their kids, or they're showing pictures of their dogs, their puppies, and their kittens, their cats. So parang ganon, okay? So I just want you to remember that. So moving on to the third C is community. Now, in setting up your community, what's really important here is your boundaries. You need to make sure that your boundaries are in place. Again, different folks, different strokes. I remember when I started working from home, I had difficulty making that happen because sanay ako na I have to go to the office. I need to dress up for it, right? And I need to have some parameters with my space. So I had difficulty because I associate home with relaxing, watching my favorite TV show, and having coffee. So medyo may disconnect sa akin yan. So what I did is I set parameters on the first 3 months that I was doing it. I would in the morning I would exercise, take a bath, make myself look decent, set a different space for my work. I need to communicate with my family. I have two daughters. At that time, they were younger, so they were playing around. So I would normally tell them that this corner is dad's corner, right? And this time is dad's time, and this is how I work. So for some people, I think physically and physiologically, psychologically, we need to set those boundaries. We need to be able to say that this is where I'm doing my work, and this is the time that I'm setting aside for it, right? But having said that, I also need you to be mindful. I also need you to be mindful that eventually, kapag nasanay ka na, those parameters may not, and those boundaries may not necessarily be physical, okay? And you may want it to be more mental than setting specific boundaries, because the key word that I want you to remember here is flexibility. One of the beauty of working from home is that you can actually blend it very well with home, right? So working from home is the exact definition of work-life integration. And we want that to happen. You want that to happen. You want your kids to feel that they were prioritized. So after a half a year of making my adjustments and having a good set of parameters, I became flexible. And I love that because personally, since I get to work from home, I enjoy bringing my kids to school. Of course, not now, but before, prior to the crisis, I would set aside time to bring them to school. If they come home from school, even if they catch me working, I could pause it for a while. I like that flexibility. Sometimes when I'm typing a report or writing a proposal, it would take me 2 hours to do it, and I get so tired. And then I would lounge in our living room. But I'm still continuing my work there. I could bring my cell phone with me. I could continue work even after I'm not sitting down. I have a tall table where I could stand up and still do my work. The flexibility is wonderful, and we need to be able to merge our work and home seamlessly. And I think that's really what's going to be critical in our discussion at this point. Okay, so the next slide that I want you to see is March to a Mission. This is a principle that I believe we all need to have. It's a commitment to personal mission and purpose in your life. I'm a big fan and advocate of delivering your purpose to a watching world. And once you're mission minded, once you're clear about what you're doing and what needs to be done, then things will be seamless and effective for you. In this chart, it shows that if you have a strong sense of purpose, if this is developed and present in your life, then you will be goal driven, you will have long-term plans, you will be industrious, you would seek alignment. You want to make sure that what you're doing is consistent to your purpose as a person and the work that you do. And you would understand the importance of time management and again prioritizing, like I said a while ago. And if this is lack, you have short-term, you have short. Wait, let me just check my microphone. Something is going on. Okay, there. I hope you can still hear me. Just chat me if there's something fuzzy with the sound system. Okay. Yeah, Angelica, I'm sorry about that, but it was working very well yesterday, and this one should be okay as well. So I'm just going to try to speak up as loud as I can. Okay, maybe that's my way to project my voice. So just going back to this slide. Okay, if this is lacking, if this is something that is missing in your with you as a person, then you would lack focus. Okay, so it's important to have a missions mindset, to be purpose driven. Now, in order to march to a mission, I think in order to effectively blend work from home work with home, in order to effectively integrate one and the other, you need to march to a mission. You need to know what your purpose is. And I guess this quarantine time, and I have a lot of friends and we've conversed about this, it gave people a lot of time to reflect and evaluate who they are and who they serve, right? Um, and it gives them an opportunity to evaluate whether they are associated to the right company or group. So sometimes it's very important for individuals to know, why do I exist? What is my purpose for living? And so that I exist for this. And how is the world different if I exist? So that's the difference between purpose and vision, right? Now, if purpose and vision is clear to you, then it's your roles are going to be more efficient and effective, because you know that your roles are supposed to accomplish the mission and the purpose that you have. And having identified your roles, you'll be able to set goals on how you can progress to be authentically successful. Now, I know it seems to be I'm talking from a very ethereal point of view, but this is very critical. If you don't have a strong sense of purpose and vision, your roles will be blurred, okay? It will be unclear, it will be unfocused, and you'll be setting wrong goals after wrong goals. And some people say, I don't want to work at home because I'm distracted with my kids and the people who are home. People who are purpose driven, and when they know that they're doing their work because they want to help other people, particularly their loved ones and the community where they belong to, wouldn't have a difficult time integrating work with home, because they know that, like, for example, I know that I'm working for my kids. It's for my kids' future. I know that one of my role as a husband and as a father is to be able to provide. And if I have that strong purpose in mind and that vision of the future, then my roles will be clear. And then therefore, I will be setting specific goals that is consistent with that. And therefore, I can balance my time. And I like what Gene said here. It's also very relevant in reviewing your organization. You also want to see, what are the goals am I doing right now when it comes to my purpose and vision, right? What's the purpose of your company? Why are you doing what you're doing? Now, I own a training company, and we provide training. And sadly, we are one of the most affected industry when the quarantine was affected, because we kami pa lang um, we postponed, I think, 10 to 12 events, small events and big events, in the next 2 months, because and those were income generating for us, as it is, and we're losing 20% in terms of income just from the last month, and we stand to lose 30% more. But we recalibrated. We know that our purpose is education, and our purpose is to educate, and our roles are educators, and our goals is to give you what I'm doing right now. So the first thing that we did is we made sure that, okay, let's do pre-webinars. Okay, we weren't technologically ready. We said, hey, let's use Facebook. We did Facebook Live, and one of the initiatives that we did was basically do seminars on Facebook, and that was really nerve-wracking for me, because it was live and we didn't have the facilities to do that. But we also made it meaningful, because we also helped raise funds for an NGO called Save the Children, and they were helping more than 2,000 vulnerable children and families around the country. So if we raise 650 pesos per donor, that's already enough to give one or two families a hygiene kit. So so what I'm saying, that despite of the crisis, if we are aligned with our sense of purpose and vision, we'll still continue to do it. Of course, profitability and being commercial, earning income commercially is a different story altogether. So we're just trusting God on how we will proceed. But the idea for us to remember is that unless we are we know that we are part and consistent about this purpose, our community will never be one. Simon Sinek said, if there's one thing that glues people together other than trust, is a strong sense of purpose. So if we know what our company stands for and what we need to achieve as an organization, then we could do this. Okay. So the other principle, other than March to Mission, that I want you to remember is that integrate all of life. Okay, because this portion is about involving home, we need to have that commitment to pursue the balance on all vital areas of our life. Now, I did say that we need to have a clear sense of mission or a clear sense of purpose. Now, once we have that, we should be able to integrate everything consistent to the purpose that we've identified with ourselves individually and with the organizations that we belong to. Because if this is present and developed, you people will balance priorities. They will be more disciplined and less impulsive, less reactive. They will have more energy for the things that they're doing. And if this is underdeveloped, they will lack balance. They will neglect certain areas, and they will be prone to burnout, to react more strong, and then they are more reactive than usual. Now, this is, you might want to use this as a diagnostic tool. Okay, why did I say that? Because the principles here is that I have some people who's working from home right now, and to be able to manage the remote working environment is really a struggle. But I notice people are more engaged, are the ones who really embrace the mission of our organization. So I'm not afraid to ask hard questions. I ask people when people come up with excuses that I can't do this, Boris, I need to do this. I need to do this first. Okay, definitely family first, safety first. But sometimes like Netflix binge watching is really not a good excuse, or oversleeping is not an excuse. And you wonder whether those people are aligned with you when it comes to mission and purpose. And you ask hard questions. And some of them are hardworking, they deliver the task, but you wonder, they only deliver the task when you ask them to do it. They don't take the initiative. So they lack integration. And when they lack integration, you want to ask the hard questions. Maybe they lack a strong sense of mission and involvement as well. Maybe they don't feel that they belong to your company. Well, a lot of people, and again, not being less sensitive to the situation, a lot of people were telling me, and I agree to them, that this period of crisis is also a period of cleansing and healing. So I guess in so many ways for organizations, it's also a good way to prune or separate the chaff from the wheat. And it's a wonder, but it's not in a negative way to certain individuals. It's a matter of reflection and self-awareness, which we'll be discussing in a while. Now, let's continue with the idea of integration. Again, we're trying to build a strong sense of community, and we're trying to care. So those are the two C words under involving home. We want to build a community, and we need to care, and not just for the organization, but for the individuals. I believe that all of us HR practitioners, were the frontliners in the business sector. Don't you agree? We are definitely we're definitely making sure that people are cared for, and we want people to care for themselves as well. Because one of the pitfalls of working from home are two things: either they underperform or they overperform. Now, they underperform is because they don't integrate well, they don't have a strong sense of mission. But some people overperform, and I'm talking to you, people who are workaholics here. I'm a workaholic myself, and when we overperform, we don't set boundaries anymore. We use whatever time we have in order to work. Sometimes already in bed, we still have our laptops on our backs. I mean, on our backs, on our laps, and we're typing away, working together. So again, we need to be conscious about that, and care is very important. In this next slide I'm going to show you is actually a wonderful circle. Okay, now this is the wheel of balance, and I want to show you this because It gives you a clear visual representation on how they all progress. So a strong sense of purpose is important. And from your purpose, you have the picture of the future, what your vision is, right? So how does it work well with your family life, with your ambition, with your goals for your children? How does it work in your professional area, right? And so from out of your purpose and vision, which is the core of things, you should be able to identify your roles, okay? And clearly define them. And your roles are in different aspects of your life. And what I did is I grouped them into 7 Fs, okay? So your roles in your family, in your firm, okay? So parang 1/4 lang or 1/8 lang siya ng overall equation. Your fitness, this is a good time to really look at our health and physical well-being. Your faith, your circle of friends, your finances, and even having fun. And I believe that there's a big degree of personal pleasure and enjoyment that should be included in the way we balance things out. So I want you to evaluate yourself based on this circle. And again, we'll be giving you copies of this PowerPoint deck and also a document that gives you a good narrative on some of the things we're talking about here. So if you're on Facebook, if you're listening to us, watching us on Facebook, just give a comment. Richard and Juliet will interact with you on how you can get copies of this. Those of you, all 500 of you who's registered here, you'll get a copy of this. So what you need to do is, parang ano, let's do the wheel balance. You shade it up. You can produce a copy of your own here. So what I did is, parang it's my way to evaluate how am I doing in terms of balance. So kunwari, since I'm a workaholic, like what I said, so pag sinade ko to, parang nandito na yata ako sa uppermost part ng firm. Tapos, and then I do a lot of the finance part. So family, fairly, I think my wife and my girls do not complain so much of tumataas. But what I neglect, I think, is the fitness part, right? So, and then sometimes I can be very negligent with my friends. And the church I mean, it's fairly enough with, it goes hand in hand with my family. So I want you to do that. And when you see the weak areas of your shading, I mean, if you shade it and then konti lang yung shading sa on certain aspect, I need you to be able to do the cross training sheet. I'll be giving this separately. It's not on the PowerPoint, but you need to be able to set your goals. Okay, so set mo yung goals mo kasi parang, from this, what's missing here, you want to be able to identify the goals. Now, kunwari ako, I'm bad with fitness. So one of the things that it's the example is too real. But one of the things that I need to do is to get back in shape in this period of quarantine. I probably should, I am doing it, pero medyo kulang pa sa consistency. I'm doing some indoor workouts with my wife, and she would police me. Sometimes natamad kasi ako doing it kasi napaka-passive. So but then, that's a goal that I probably need to write because it's not there. For some of you who may, maybe your low aspect is on the faith area. Maybe the goal that you need to put there is that maybe during this time, I need to spend time to read more and check on my spiritual health, okay? And spend time more with God in prayer. We need more of that right now, personally, and then collectively as a community. We need to be praying, all right? To be praying more. So anyway, you'll have copies of that. But let me just summarize this particular section to integrate the 7 areas of your life. And the 7 areas are the 7 Fs, okay? Your family, your firm, your finances, your friends, your fitness, your faith, and your and having fun. These are the 3 tips that I want to share with you. Balance priorities, okay? And we're talking about urgency a while ago, about certainty and information, about impact and visibility. Balance priorities both professionally and personally. Set your priorities intentionally, purposefully, para alam mo talaga kung ano yung urgent, ano yung important. Balance your attitudes, okay? Ang balancing act dito yung structure and being spontaneous. Yung mga high C dito, you might be more structured. Yung mga high I dito na individuals, very social, you're probably too spontaneous naman. So you want to balance it, because at the end of the day, even when it comes to your work, success is a journey and not a destination. So you want to be able to savor moments. And even if you're at home and you're locked down, it's very important to balance those things and be creative on how you can improve and enrich and feed your well-being. Okay, and balance your goals also. And in my personal opinion here, like what I said a while ago, what we balance here is results and relationships, and there has to be a good balance between the two. Too much focus on results would make you damage relationships, right? Too much relationship naman and no more results. I have a sales manager before who's too friendly for his own good. Yeah, everybody likes him. He's like the teddy bear of the entire company and even some of my clients. But if he's not really selling, diba? So what is he there for? So medyo mababa yung outcome niya. And then sayang kasi is the Mr. Congeniality of the industry. He could have really maximized that. So balancing it is very critical. People are more important than schedules, right? So that's it for the second part, right? The third part is integrate personal life, okay? And the entire idea here is integration. So just to recap, okay, there's the first two sessions, we talked about improving work. And when we talk about improving work, we considered clarity. We want to clarify things when it comes to your mission, your task, your expectations. And we want to communicate well, formally and informally, okay? And then when we talked about involving home, the two C's there are community and care, because what better way to build a community other than virtually is to make sure that you integrated well with your home, your family members, with your wife, with your kids, with your siblings, get them involved. As I do some of these webinars, my kids and my wife, they're involved. One of my kids is editing a video. My wife is holding my cell phone the other day. Nangawit na yata siya. Pero yun, and then for this one, integrate all of life or personal life. The key words here are consistency and collaboration, okay? And I'm gonna talk more about that as I move on. So when I talk about consistency, I'm referring to your personal purpose. And one of the advocacy that I teach is project purpose. We tell individuals, whether young or old, that it's important that you become mindful of your personal life purpose. And here in this chart, you'll see vision, values, and vehicles. Because I believe that if you know where you're going in terms of your purpose and you're guided by your values, you get to choose what vehicles you take. Let me repeat that. If you know your purpose, you know where you're going, you know where your destination is, right? And that's the vision of the future. And you're guided by your values, and we'll talk about that later. You get to choose your vehicles, right? And admittedly, the job that you do right now, the work that you do right now, are just vehicles that brings you closer to your destination. All right. This particular principle is what we call achieving personal significance. A self-aware individual, somebody who can accurately define their self-image, has a healthy knowledge of their own strengths and development areas, right? So, and if this is present in you, you are more self-aware, you're confident with your strengths, you contribute significantly, you acknowledge that you have weaknesses, or we would rather call that development areas. And therefore, you get to influence other more, you get to engage, you're more involved, you have a long range perspective, you display openness and humility, and you accept feedback. Feedback's the breakfast of champions. If we want to improve, we need to be willing to let people give us positive criticism, right? Now, if that is missing, then we lack confidence. We become unaware of our own strengths. We don't know where we volunteer in when it comes to certain work. We do not know what to leverage on. We misjudge our own the impact on the situation. We are short-term thinkers, and we become defensive on feedback. Have you ever heard the expression that some people kill the messengers before they hear the message? Yeah, for some people, they think feedback is a tool for other people to put down their leadership or put down their work or to discourage them. But people who have achieved personal significance, they want to know feedback because it helps them grow. Leaders are aware of that and they want to grow. Okay, and all of that is boils down to what we call self-awareness. You exist to make a significant impact in the world, but you have soft spots. Those are development areas, right? And I love this, excuse me, and I love this quote from Marshall Goldsmith. He says that a leader who is self-aware enough to know that he or she is not adept at everything is one who has taken the first step towards being a great leader. So self-awareness, it always begins with that. And some of you are familiar with the hedgehog principle that Jim Collins shared. And I think that's really one wonderful way to develop your life purpose. And I have a version of that. So it's almost similar. But when it comes to identifying your purpose, I think you need to know what you love to do, what you're passionate in doing, and what you're good at, and what would make an impact to the world. So it's kind of similar to the hedgehog principle, where the first circle is on what you're passionate about, what you are best at in your world or industry. Ikigai, very good. Yes, Rafael, you said it, you nailed it right. Ikigai. Ikigai is a principle, and the three or four circles that was developed in Japan, basically to have a purposeful life, and that's the whole idea here as well. Now, I love this quote from the Bible. It's found in Proverbs 29, verse 18. It says there, where there is no vision, people perish. When we integrate our personal life, it is very important for us to have a clear sense of purpose and an identified vision, because that will definitely, in a significant, big way, help us in integrating everything in our life, balancing work from home, being able to be being more productive and performing better. To begin with, you probably need to recalibrate. You probably need to check whether it's something that what you're doing right now is something that's consistent to your purpose and vision. I'm not encouraging you to resign from your work, okay? I'm just saying that this is a wonderful time to reflect and recalibrate, okay? We always say this in Project Purpose: when the why is known, the how is easy, right? So you also would like to work, you would want to work with teammates who are aligned with your corporate purpose. And like what I said a while ago, asking them the hard questions is probably the best thing that you can do for yourself, your organization, and even for them. All right? Because your goal setting, your action planning becomes more fluid if your why is clear. Now, I mentioned values a while ago. I said that you need to, in your life purpose, you need to have your vision, your values, and that's how you choose your vehicles later on. We need to have a commitment to live a values-driven lifestyle, and we need to internalize the right principles. Especially now that we're running things on a virtual manner, trust is a commodity that needs to be purchased by a lot of leaders and distributed to their team members. And you only trust somebody who you believe, whose values you believed in, right? And if a leader is not committed to a values-driven lifestyle, then it's going to be difficult for any follower to actually be consistent in their commitment to following this leader and then completing the task that is assigned to them. Now, people who have internalized the right principles, if they have this developed, they will demonstrate consistent decision making. They will choose well. And normally our choices is not, it's not between good and bad. Our choices are normally between what's good and best. So if we want to have the right frame in making decisions, we want to choose what's best, not just what's good, right? And then we need to espouse these principles. We need to be trustworthy and reliable. We don't bend these principles for personal gain. We don't bend these principles in the midst of the crisis, okay? I think what's awful right now is that we've seen a lot of people bend their principles just because they want to take advantage of the situation. And that's awful. And it's disappointing in so many ways. When they don't have the right principles, they act unpredictably. They are more concerned about their own interests, and I expounded on that a while ago. They shrink from expressive values. They nano sila nanliliit sila when it comes to, and they ang tawag doon, nag-cringe sila when it comes to principled decision making. They require more control because they're insecure, and they're willing to bend principles, like what I said kanina, personal gain, and they decide based on circumstances. Again, being reactive and not responsive. And when we said a while ago, in order to prioritize, we need to react less and respond more. And we can do that if we have the right principles intact. Wouldn't you agree? Now, if you want help to build the right values in your life, let me just give you 6 tips on how to do that. One is verify your own values, because for sure I believe that everybody has their own values one way or another. You were framed that way. I mean, God created you to begin with. Your parents, they did their parenting in a certain way that allowed you to develop certain values, right? Your community, your faith, your involvement. So verify your values, just check them out. I don't even have to tell you to identify your values. You don't identify it. I think it's already there. So you just have to frame it or verify it. And then articulate your universal principles. What are the principles that are consistent with other people, right? And because we have shared values, it may be called differently, like integrity is a value of one person, honesty is another, but they actually interface, okay? So you want to articulate it, so you want to see how other people frame their values and how they match. So you want to talk to your teams, your teammates, the people who directly report to you, whether your values match. If it doesn't, then medyo may problema tayo, okay? And that's probably one way to do some pruning and maybe to let people grow in the process. Maybe they can adopt your values when you coach them and mentor them, right? Learn the proper perspective on issues. Look at things from different perspectives, from other people's perspective. Embrace or apply empathy so you would understand it from how they see it. Unpack right values through actions, meaning you apply it, you implement it. Don't just claim it, do it. Like, humility is never claimed, right? You only demonstrate it. Evaluate your personal growth. One of the things that you may also want to do in your goal setting, we identified kanina that purpose, vision, roles, and goals. One of the goals that you probably want to add there are your principles, your values. For example, Prioritizing your family, putting your family first could be a value that you have. And therefore, it's part of one of the 7 areas, the F, right? Or maybe one of your values is caring for others. So you probably want to put that under friendship, and even when it comes to leading your company, your firm, right? So those are important. These are very important topic that as we wrap our time together, we need to understand that our values are our guideposts in everything that we do. Somebody said, and it's a gas na siyang quote on Facebook and LinkedIn, the crisis does not create our character, it reveals it, right? So during this pandemic outbreak, a lot of character is being revealed. And as you discover yourself, there's an opportunity to still recalibrate, right? There's a wonderful time to recalibrate. That's why integrating your work, home, and personal life will become a valuable moment and time for you as a leader, as an individual, and as a professional, right? And so I need to challenge you when it comes to your values and your purpose. I like this quote that says, more and more people today have the means to live, but no meaning to live for. Losing my opportunity to gain income or to be income generating, I'm a variable income earner. Unless anybody books me, I won't have any income. So I'm not earning at any point right now. But when we're focused on making money, we lose track of what's really meaningful. So I want sorry. There's a frog in my throat. Don't worry, I haven't contacted anything. I want to challenge you to reflect on your purpose and meaning in life. So it's a wonderful time to actually do that. And I keep using the word recalibrate because there's an opportunity for you to recalibrate when you need to recalibrate, meaning to change things up because you're probably on the wrong track. You probably chose the wrong vehicle, right? Ron Jensen, a good friend of mine, said this in his book, Make a Life, Not a Living. We are to run the race of life to win. What is the race you are running? What is the race you're running? Do you know your mission? Have you written it down? Are you living in light of it? So I would like to end with that quotation and just give you some practical next steps as you move on in integrating your work, home, and personal life. And I call this habits. Of course, you build good habits in the process, right? And how do you build good habits? Have a plan. Use the wheel of balance that I've given you. Try to measure up your where do you invest more time on and where do you screw up a little bit and hindi masyadong nagbibigay ng attention. And then attach pain and pleasure. Ano ibig sabihin nito? In pursuing integration, syempre it's going to be pleasurable and enjoyable to us, but it also requires a lot of discipline. And discipline is painful. Adjustments are painful. Being flexible is painful. Sacrificing for others is painful. Giving up time, for example, to communicate is painful. So know that in your plan, not everything is smooth sailing for you. Not everything is comfortable for you. So there's pain and pleasure. I like to challenge you to build accountability. It's always good to be accountable to people. To the people that I'm accountable with, we always meet via Messenger, Viber, or Zoom. In the past 2 weeks, I've been chatting with them, video conferencing with them, and just having a sounding board for some of my complaints and negativity in life. At the same time, I'm giving this person's permission to be critical about my attitude and to check me out so that I would have a better perspective on things, and then internalize the truth. When we internalize the truth, we get to have a better understanding of ourselves and of others and the going ons in the world. Internalizing truth is self-awareness. Internalizing truth is having faith that the God who is sovereign will be good enough to ensure your safety and to convince you that everything is under his control. So I really wish you all the best, especially during this period, in this time of reflection and recalibration. May you choose to clarify your purpose. May you choose to clarify your vision. May you choose to clarify and probably redesign the set of goals that you have right now. May you choose to prioritize what is urgent, what is feasible, what would make impact and contribute well. May you choose to communicate better and communicate based on purpose, be intentional, be deliberate. Communicate not just because for the sake of communication or giving direction, but communicate to connect, to build connectedness, to build community, so that community, even in a virtual reality or virtual environment, will still be felt by every team member, every employee, and every person who's part of your community. And we need to extend care. We need to be able to care for people, and that's how we can really be consistent and collaborate, not just efficiently but effectively. Now, my contact informations are here. May you connect with me in every possible way. The cell phone number I've given belongs to my assistant, and she's more than willing to get in touch with you, send you these details, and PMAP will also have this information. So you're receiving two things. You'll be receiving the PowerPoint deck, and you'll be receiving a document that contains articles that I've written. I'm also gonna give you a link, an interview that I did for GMA News on how to work from home. Some of the practical tips are there, and I didn't share it here, but you'll also find it very, very useful. Again, I'm Boris Joaquin, doing my best to integrate work, home, and personal life, and I wish you to be able to do the same way. And I pray for you. I pray for everyone who's been part of this webinar. May you integrate, and may you be able to integrate well by the grace, mercy, and love that the Lord, our God, affords all of us. Those who believe in faith that He is sovereign and He is in control, He will definitely carry us out, even in these times of crisis. Thank you for joining. God bless. Now, I'm just checking out if there's any questions here. Thank you so much, guys. I'm reading your chat right now. Everybody's saying thank you. Thank you for appreciating this time. I have a question here. How can the PMA, how can the work from home arrangement help achieve? Well, basically, I answered that a while ago. You need to understand that this is a good opportunity to achieve work and life balance. Actually, not just work and life balance, but work and life integration because you're working at home, right? So, example, it's good to work at home. So we are really privileged to be doing that. Honestly, it's something that you to be thankful for. I mean, not everybody has that privilege, but you guys do. Can I take this opportunity to promote? We have an online prayer hour on Monday. Okay, and I'll be facilitating that, and we'll be praying for an hour. All right. Somebody asked, Miss Estrada asked, what if your boss insists that your job needs face-to-face conversation? How will this actually, Miss Estrada, I agree that face-to-face conversation is necessary, to be honest. I really think that you should embrace that as well, because I would rather talk to my boss occasionally, right, than anything else. It's very important that constant communication happens between you and your boss and also with your teammates. So I would encourage that. Kasi nawala yung ano eh, nawala yung anong tawag doon? Nawala yung body language and facial expressions. So I know some of us, ayaw natin ng video kasi naka-work at home ako eh. Actually, if you look down, naka-shorts ako. But no, then again, di ba, parang you would want that, right? Now, another question here is that when can, okay, you can, the copy, somebody will communicate that for you. All right. Thank you so much for joining. I guess that's all the time that I have. Somebody's asking, is Trello for free and how much? How it costs? Like any other app, merong free version, and then eventually, when you upgrade, my costs. Okay, so check that out. Grace, her important learning takeaway is balance, result, and relationship. Yes, that's also one of the things that I want you to remember. We need to balance relationship and my work. What suggestions can you give in order to change the way of thinking of some of the employers' management with regard to work from home arrangement? I think some of them is trying to apply the traditional way. Oh yeah, that's a bummer. I mean, you know, to be honest with you guys, I think yung crisis na to is forcing us to look at telecommuting and mobility in a very parang practical way. So we should encourage, we should encourage people to, and our employers to look at this um from a open-minded perspective. Let me tell you this. According to the US, before the crisis happens, ano to, marami na kasi nag-work at home there. Normally, tech companies. 53% of people are working from home. They actually have high productivity compared to work whether when they go to the office. So that's one good reality to remember. So remember that. Pero syempre, hindi lahat ng work, di ba? Parang pwedeng mag-work from home. Kunwari, retail. Hindi ka pwedeng mag-work from home retail unless you have an online mechanism to do that. So yun. I hope I answered everybody's question. Yun lang ba yun? What I didn't check is Facebook, right? So may 10 minutes pa. Just check lang yung Facebook. If I have any question there. Thank you guys for saying that this is timely. I want to thank Richard Mamuyak. Actually, he's the one who managed to put that together. I'm not sure we're on Facebook. Were we on Facebook? Well, thank you again, PMAP team, under the leadership of our president, Loy, and of course, our executive director, Sir Rene. Maraming salamat to the people behind AIHRM. Thank you for putting this. There are other webinars that you may want to check out later. PMAP is doing a wonderful job to actually put together free webinars like this. Yes, we're on YouTube too. Akala ko na sa Facebook, yun lang hindi ko makita right now. Thank you so much. God bless you all. Thank you, Miss Grace, for saying that it's very relevant and practical. Yes.